The young woman who was injured in the Boston bombing said she feared that man who did that dreadful deed. But when she saw him in the court and tried to look into his eyes, she no longer feared him. The fear had gone. So often we fear what is not there. So often we fear a look, a word, a change of breathing. Fear. Some people look forward to switching off the light at night. Some people are afraid to switch off the light at night. Another will lie awake in the darkness, fearing to go to sleep, hearing every sound, fearing that if they can't get to sleep, there'll be no good tomorrow, fearing tomorrow. In my paradigm of now 39 F's for coping with life, number 17 F I designate as folding and falling. The way we fold over and fall asleep. But fear interferes with that. And we feel we cannot fall over and fall asleep. There is a children's story that every adult should read and study, I believe. It is the story of the 3 billy goats Gruff. They wanted to dine on the rich green tufts on the yonder hill. But to get there, they had to go across the bridge, remember? And under that bridge, there was a troll that made such a noise that it threw them off their path and into unmanageable fear. So they couldn't reach their goal because of the noise some troll was making. Was it the noise of the troll that stopped them? Was it fear that beat them? Was it they did not know how to negotiate with the troll? So they became a victim of their own fear. Was it they didn't know how to control and manage themselves? Was it that they settled for being sick billy goats, dominated by fear, instead of being happy billy goats, getting on with their life and getting what they really wanted? Back in the 1970s, I had a lot of involvement with some psychotherapists in London. Many of them of those therapists were researching the management of fears and phobias. We were meant to know something about some 220 fears and phobias. Some of them were easily recognized, like the fear of darkness, like the fear of strangers. Other fears were very much more difficult to handle. Fears of insects, fears of dust, fears of going into the water, fears of something terrible might happen. One of the distinguished workers in that human zone at the time was a psychiatrist called Dr. Isaac Marks. He wrote the book, Living with Fear. He said what we all know, that fear is right with us every day. From the day we're born till the day we die, it affects us. Some people live with it and manage it, use it and leave it. Other people become dominated by it all their life. It distorts their thinking. It disturbs their sleep. It distorts the way they handle life. It deprives them of happiness. It drives them into mental disorders. It destroys relationships. It distracts them from what they really want. And it drains their energy. With despondency knocking on the window. With self-deprecation knocking on the window. With depression knocking on the window all the time. In my addresses of recent times, I've been encouraging you to look again at some of the very pressing everyday concerns. And so today I'm going to do that again. In this address I propose to do 5 things. 1, I shall speak briefly to some of the ways fear gets at us. Secondly, I'll speak about some of the ways we try to cope and how other people, with all the good will in the world, make it worse. And thirdly, I'll speak about some positive ways to live with and lessen our fears. 4th, I shall point to some of the ways religious teachers have evaded this subject. Or if they haven't, they've pointed to certain views that were unhelpful, that were very deceptive. So I'll make passing reference to that. And then 5thly, I shall then attempt to put on one page, as it were, a new theology that I'm developing. And here, the theology of living with fear. So first of all, how fear gets at us. You know, it can take over your life. It can tyrannize you. There is no St. George to slay your dragons. We fear our money will run out. We fear that there will be nobody to help us if we get really ill. We fear time is running out for us. We fear old age and the deterioration, decline, dependency, dementia, and the dying part of old age. It comes to us all. We fear life's losses will one day tell us our turn has come. We fear little things. And we fear the way little things can become big things. And we fear we'll not be able to cope. We may not notice it, but fear joins hands with a wide range of anxieties. People sit with me each day and they tell me what's worrying them. They're anxious perhaps about what is going to happen next. One person, 36 years old, lost her job. Now what? Another, 53 years old, husband is dying. Now what? Another 74 years old, losing his memory. Now what? Yet another 23 years old, and he feels inferior. Can't cope with himself. Now what? Of course, age is not the issue in these instances. What is the issue? That one worry quickly joins with 20 other worries, with 50 other worries, with 70 other anxieties. And then in come your well-meaning friends, and they quickly decide what is making you feel the way you feel. And so they give you a little of their help, which tends to expand and escalate the situation. They encourage solutions that open up wounds of the past, that throws more wood on a raging fire. and that dictates what that person should do. So would you stop it? Well-meaning people helping other people with what they fear rarely helps, I discover. One worry seems to love another. One person with troubles listens to other people who make things worse. People who see negative things jump on the negative wagon. As kids, we used to play stacks on the mill, more on still. It was fun, except the person on the bottom was suffocating, was not being helped at all. And so it is when one person has a worry and other people play stacks on the mill, when often what is needed is a little breathing space all around. Some room to let us refocus resources, the right kind of resources, revising our coping strategies to deal with this. Some of the ways we try to cope just don't work. But we keep trying to make them work. Now, if I said that's a little bit crazy, you'd probably think I was being insulting, telling you were crazy. But since we're not in that situation at the moment, let us all agree. Surely it's crazy to go on repeating patterns you know will fail. How do you know they'll fail? Because they've failed a dozen times before. And if you think, oh, the next time will be all right, that's called the gambler's temptation. The gambler's temptation is the belief that the next card will win the jackpot. I think I have news for you. I have news. It doesn't happen that way. Some of us keep on doing this, knowing we're not getting results. So we up the ante. When sometimes it would be sensible to blow some air around the troubled tooth. Look at some of our wrong ways that we use to lessen our fears. We enlarge the fear. We call others in to help us. We listen to them. Since I have just used an image of the troubled tooth, let me ask, do you ask your friends to palpate your aching tooth? Surely not. Yet fear can be like an aching tooth. It needs a different approach. It needs a holistic approach. So we know fear keeps us awake. It affects our functioning at work. It rattles our best thoughts. It turns some of us to drugs or to alcohol or to gambling or to various forms of destructive behaviour. Fear starts producing physical symptoms. It can open the door to depression. And it can carry us right down the corridor to hysteria. Fear can ever so subtly burrow into our unconscious mind and carry us into the needs of the troubled child, unable to find the mother of God to save us and to set us back on course again. So often your fears attract people who don't know their way through these fears, the forest of fears. And so things don't get better, they get worse. People are so often likely to feed your fears when you need to find a new focus to take you out of the forest of those fears. So I come to the third issue. What positive ways are available to you to live with and to lessen your fears? And I'm going to name 4 of these. I'm going to ask you to follow my F paradigm. You can fence off your fear. That sounds easy, not so easy, because of course the fear wants to break through the fence. But we need to practice fencing off the fear. This ensures that fear does not fan out over everything and tyrannize the whole of your life space, your everyday. So you invoke the fencing principle. Fence it off over there. Imagery. And then practice curtailing and containing it into a space where you know where it is. And you can begin then to take control of it because it's within the fence rather than spilling out all over the place. So number one, fence. Number two, you're then in a position to decide how powerful is that fear and how effective is your willpower and your self-power to prevent it from getting out and tyrannizing your entire life. You can look at it and say, how powerful is the fear? How powerful are my resources to keep it under control? We need to look at the power of the self at that point. Number three, we need to observe how fear incites regression. Regression means that we go back to old ways. We go back to even childish ways. You can become so frantic that you become fixated back there somewhere. Fear not only feeds religious fundamentalism, it feeds existential fundamentalism, in which you become convinced that you have put yourself beyond correction. You turn to unarguable convictions and insistent coercions. It happens in families, happens in your relationships, happens in workplaces, all over. And it takes a lot of care to coax people away from this kind of self-tyranny, this regression, to revoke the readiness to regress into early demands, early fixations. But it can be done. That's the good news. That was number three. Number four, it's important to acknowledge the positive value of fear that can lead to a stronger emotion that will not only face your fear, but will replace it with something else. That's easier said than done too, but let me put it in imagery. It is beautifully seen in just a little snippet of a story, part of the story of Wind in the Willows. Remember the story? Rat and mole in this part of the story have drifted away from where they should have been. And they became very frightened of what was likely to happen. And then they sat poised before the gates of dawn, the story says, transfixed by the mysterious sensations and noises around them. And then Rat says, here in this holy place, here if anywhere, surely we will find him. Then suddenly the mole was overcome by a strange presence. And he said, Rat, Rat, are you afraid? And Rat murmured, afraid, afraid. His eyes were shining. Afraid of him? Oh, never, never. And yet, O mole, I am afraid. And then the two animals, crouching to the earth, bowed their heads and did worship. There is a word here for every adult human being. Too quickly overabsorbed in our fears and all that fear can do. Two little animals, overawed by life's mystery, turned their fears into something good and beautiful, and they bowed their heads and worshipped. When human beings do that, all fears are surely transformed. I would like to give a speech on the psychology of worship, but I fear nobody wants to listen to it because we've long since been alienated from what worship might mean. And yet it is a powerful emotion that human beings have neglected, but may retrieve to their great advantage. So I come to the fourth part of this address today. We're here knocking on the door of a theology of fear. A theology? Who's interested in a theology of fear? Leave that to the theologians. They're not even doing it. They don't know how to do it. So we leave it all together. No, let us do it. Let us do it. Of course, we've all been exposed to the religion that says, trust in God and your fears will disappear, and they don't. We've all been exposed to the religion that says, trust in God and you won't be depressed. Of course, that's not true. We've all been exposed to the religion that says, trust in God and your melanoma on your back will disappear. No, it won't. Trust in God and God will look after you. God is not a big brother, or if he is, he's like that big brother that when you most want him, he's no longer there. So that's not a rational religion at all. If that's not a stupid religion, it's certainly a deceptive religion. It's a false religion. It is a religion that is in fact supported by fear. A theology of fear says, are you ready for this? It says perfect love casts out fear. Now you'll say that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Is it? Let me say a few words. Our fears are too tenacious to give in to love. We know that. Pile on all the love you like, but I will fear the violence. I will fear the meanness. I will fear the malice of other people. Pile in all the love you like, and I will still feel the dreadful. But let me thank the writer of those ancient words for just one moment, when I think he was saying, let us hear the words in a different way. So I'm going to turn the words slightly around to reflect our current knowledge and our current psychology. And the words now will say this: spray around every tree of fear the abundance of positive emotions, and the tree of fear will change. Perfect love casts out fear. There have been times in your life when you felt a love which was stronger than all your fears. Abundant positive emotions leave little room for the tyranny of fear. Barrowloads of marigolds will change the bleakest landscape. John Lennon of the Beatles devised that song and they sang it. All you need is love, love, love. And we didn't believe it. But surround each other with positive emotions of joy and happiness and love. Do that. Oh, make it careful love if you like. Make it calculated love if you like. Make it conditional love if you like. But make it a belief in love. Make it softness of love. Make it the sanity of love. Make it the kindness of love. Make it the psychology of love. Make it the theology of love. Show the world it is not too late to believe in love, to practice ridiculous love, irrational love, silent love, the mystery of love, extravagant love, with all the positive emotions and good feelings of life. Put them in. And then with mole and rat, let your heads bow and do worship. You know, without that astonishing mystery of worship, we pass ourselves over to the trash loads of fear. And that's what they are, back and forth, the trash loads of fear. And we've forgotten the power of worship, of something bigger than our fears. The theology of fear says, we receive from life and we give to life when we remember. What will we remember? We will remember the power of positive emotions and the transformation of life as we worship life's greatest gift, the mystery of the best emotion. Would you please stand? Say with me, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. And the blessing. May the God you see in all the colours of creation arouse in you a sense of awe and wonder. May the God who is a sacred presence be real to you. May the God who is a source of inspiration and courage keep calling you forwards. May your God go with you and bless you today and always.